Hi everyone, Richard here. My interest in the use of geometry by artists was seriously piqued in the winter of 2019 when I first saw Palma Vecchio's The Virgin and Child with Saints and a Donor, shown here, at the Thyssen-Bornemisza Museum in Madrid. It's not a huge painting, about 41 by 54 inches, but still, the painting pulled me across the room. I was so taken by it. I've often had such visceral reactions to paintings, but something about this experience set me on a course of trying to better understand its cause. This was just before the COVID lockdown, so it may simply have been fortuitous that over the next several months I found myself with a lot of free, quiet time and was able to delve into the painting to see if I could figure out what drew me to this work with such intensity. I knew that I was drawn to the painting in large part because of its composition, a beautiful arrangement of color, value, and especially line. I tend to see things geometrically. My mind naturally connects the dots, so to speak. I felt almost intuitively that this painting has a geometric underpinning to its form. So, using Photoshop, I started to overlay lines where I felt the most obvious structure appeared. The first two I felt comfortable with were these, the one on the left running along the side of the Virgin's head, shoulder, and arm, and down along the side of St. John's arm, and the one on the right from the top of Mary's head down along the back of the donor's cloak. Both lines are at 45 degrees and mirror one another, so geometry is already suggested. The two female figures on the sides, Mary Magdalene on the left, St. Catherine on the right, also lean into the painting at 45 degrees. And though one sits a bit higher in the painting, they are a near mirror image of one another. I then added a few more lines at 45-degree angle, one drawn through the upper leg of St. John, another from the upper left corner and down through the lower body of the Christ child, and another from the upper right and down along the foreheads of St. Catherine and the donor. At this point, I noticed that if I added vertical lines at the horizontal golden section points, the lines at the top center begin to converge. For those who don't know, the golden section, or golden mean, or golden ratio, and sometimes called the divine proportion, is a point, such as C here, placed on a line, AB, so that the ratio of the short end of the line, AC, to the long end, CB, is the same as the ratio of the long end to the whole, AB. Any given line will have two golden sections, one measured from one end and one from the other, D, here. Now I needed to tighten up those diagonal lines. So I first added center lines, and then added a refined line, A, so that it more closely followed the side of Mary's head and arm, as well as the side of St. John's upper arm. I did the same with line B, that runs so obviously down the back of the donor's cloak. If line C was tightened and moved to the back of St. Catherine's head and shoulder, and line D mirrored C and ran down the side of Mary Magdalene's face and down her right hand and arm, these diagonal lines, as well as the golden section and center lines, start to converge, but off of the painting's edges. I moved the lines slightly, and everything fit near perfectly. It was only at this point that I saw that lines C and D are diagonals of small squares in the upper corners. What is going on here? What is this geometry? I began to ask myself. I continued to tighten up those 45-degree diagonals, running down from the upper left and right corners, and then realized they too are diagonals of squares, the sides of which meet diagonals A and B, where they meet the horizontal center line at E and F. I then added the missing diagonal lines to make it fully symmetrical. A delightful bit of geometry, but how would an artist come up with it? When I started my exploration of this painting back in early 2020, I had no real expectations. I simply wanted to see what I might be able to find. I did not expect to generate a geometry from the painting that, to my mind, fit so well. I was surprised, but of course delighted. I especially like the way St. Catherine fits the grid here on the right, and Mary and the Christ Child in the central diamond shape here. But especially the donor dominating the bottom right corner of the grid with his dark cloak, and with his head perfectly fit in that little square, and his hands tucked at the bottom of that small triangle. But it doesn't fit the painting's dimensions. It's not unusual for old paintings to have been cut down sometime in their long history. Is that what happened here? Feeling I was onto something, I contacted the museum, and sure enough, they said there are clear signs the painting had indeed been cut down on all four sides. So this is all pure speculation, but was this the geometry that Palma Vecchio used for this painting? And could this be close to how the painting originally looked? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I'm certainly fascinated by the possibility. I do know that the results and the way they were attained by reverse engineering greatly inspired me to continue my exploration of other paintings. But what about that geometry? It all seems obvious now, but when I first lined up all those pieces and all those squares developed, I was quite surprised. I couldn't figure it out until falling asleep one night it came to me. The key is the golden sections. It starts with a golden rectangle, like this. The proportions of the new geometry are then found by stacking another small square on top of the first, like this. Repeat this on the other side, then fill in the diagonals. So there you have it. In my next video, I will explore one of my all-time favorite paintings, Raphael's Alba Madonna. There I found a geometry that, to my mind, fits the painting surprisingly well. Please stay with me on this exploration of geometry and art. For information on my own work, visit my website at rtdavis.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Richard Thomas Davis Artist. Thanks for joining me.